Hello everyone, welcome to this week's video. Something that has been on my mind recently a lot more than it probably should be is Attack on Titan. The 4th season trailer came out, so I rewatched the entire show and caught up with the manga in less than a week. Something that stuck out to me this time around was how well Isayama shows ambiguous morality within his characters. Even characters that we perceive as the good guys have done some pretty horrible things, and on the flip side, the characters that we're supposed to see as the bad guys are not actually bad people. Everyone has their own motive for doing what they do, and it's up to interpretation whether or not their actions are justified on either side. So today, we're gonna take a deep dive into the morality of Attack on Titan and how perspective changes perception. This is going to be a long one, and it might get confusing, but please bear with me because it'll all make sense by the end. One more thing is that since the nature of Attack on Titan is quite dark, I will be talking about some dark themes, potentially rape or murder. If that triggers you, click off. Alright, so to get to the clearest picture of the truth, we are going to have to take a look into many different points of view, starting from the very beginning. When Attack on Titan first came out, the conflict was very clear. It was humanity versus the Titans, person versus nature, good versus evil. Titans were pure evil with no known motive for killing people. The entire first episode is designed to show us the horror of the Titans and how powerless humanity was against them. We see homes destroyed, people being brutally eaten. We even see Eren's own mother getting bit in half. He sees firsthand how cruel the world is. And it was because of this that Eren vowed to kill all Titans. Rage sparked by the people he loves. He couldn't protect her, and he was angry at the Titans, but even more angry at himself. He used these emotions to fuel his desire to get stronger. His rage is what motivates him now, and it's what motivated him throughout his entire life. By most standards, the proclamation to kill anyone brings up the question of morality, but who can blame him when he just watched his mother get eaten by a Titan before his very eyes? Does it even really matter if he kills them anyways? They are human-eating monsters after all. From a young age, we know that Eren had no problem killing people if he believed they were evil. As a child, Eren and Mikasa murdered 3 grown men. It was indeed self-defense at its core because they had just killed Mikasa's family and kidnapped her, and if they didn't fight back, they would have been killed too. But even after the men were dead, Eren continued to stab. Motivated by his desire to protect someone, he let his rage control him. After this happens, when Grisha finds them, Eren gives Mikasa his scarf in an act of kindness. A soft and tender deed that she never forgets for the rest of her life. From Mikasa's perspective, Eren is her savior. He is her only source of light in a cruel world. To her, Eren is pure of heart, and yet he just brutally stabbed other human beings because from his perspective, they were evil. As we progress through the show, our perspectives on Titans change. By the end of season 1, we know about humans that can turn into Titans like Eren. So, Eren, the boy who promised to kill all Titans, is now a Titan and is using his powers for humanity. But he's different because he's actually a human, right? Well then let's take a look at Annie, Bertold, and Reiner, who we learn are the female colossal and armored Titans. They are clearly human Titan shifters like Eren, and yet they're responsible for humanity being pushed to the brink of extinction. They are the ones who broke the walls and let the Titans in, killing a huge portion of humanity. Annie alone killed all of Levi's squad and a large number of the Survey Corps members. This makes them evil, right? They are murderers after all. By that standard, then Erwin, Levi, Hanji, Mikasa, Eren, Armin, Jean, Sasha, Connie, and a lot more people that we love could be considered evil too. They, too, are all murderers. They have killed other human beings. Levi and Mikasa in particular do not hesitate to kill another person if they interfere with their goals. But no, they have a good reason, right? They would have died if they didn't kill the enemy first, right? Well, you could say the exact same thing about Annie, Bertold, and Reiner too. As we continue to learn new information about the Titans and the Attack on Titan world, our perspective changes yet again. When our characters finally reach Eren's basement, everything that we learned in season 1 suddenly makes no sense at all. Not only do we discover that Titans were once human, but there are millions more people outside the walls. Through the notebook left by Grisha Jaeger, we learn that everyone who lives inside the walls are all subjects of Ymir. they're from Eldia and have the ability to turn into titans. So every titan that has been killed up to this point not only is a human being, but people of their very own race. We also learn that titans are not the true enemy, but pawns of the enemy, which is Marley. The conflict shifts from person versus nature to person versus society. Maybe it's not that the world is cruel, but the people are. And this is where the concept of morality gets much more complex. If you're caught up on the manga, you would have seen at least 3 different perspectives of the same story. From Marley's perspective that we learn through Grisha's book, we learn about why Marley hates Eldia so much. In their history books, they're taught that Ymir Fritz made a deal with the devil to gain the Titan powers. After she died, her Titan powers were split into 9 people who then used the powers to build up the Eldian Empire. In doing this, they also destroyed Marley. Eldians stole their land, erased their history, murdered and raped them. They thought any race other than the subjects of Ymir were inferior. Eldians became so evil and power-hungry that they began fighting amongst themselves, which eventually led to the Great Titan War and Eldia's downfall. Marley came out of the war with 7 out of 10 of the Titan powers thanks to the Tiber family and the hero of Marley, Helos. Karl Fritz, the 145th Eldian king, escaped to the island of Paradise with some of the Eldian people and built 3 massive walls made out of colossal titans. He threatened to unleash the millions of wall titans on anyone who dared try to disturb them, and this is called the Rumbling. The Eldians that were left on the main continent were segregated from the rest of Marley and placed into internment zones. Grisha Jaeger grew up in one of these internment zones called Liberio, so we see firsthand exactly how Eldians were abused, murdered, and enslaved by Marley. His little sister was eaten by dogs solely because a Marleyan officer thought it would be funny. As punishment for any crime, Eldians would be taken to Paradise Island and turned into pure titans to live out their days. But from Marley's perspective, their actions towards Eldians are justified. They were once oppressed by Eldia, so this is just payback. They have no problem killing and torturing them, even children, because in their minds, they're not humans, they're demons. Eldians in their true form are nothing but monsters. Even Eldians who live in the internment zones on Marley are brainwashed into believing that they're evil. Marleyan propaganda is used to keep Eldians oppressed and under their control. They've been told about the atrocities that their ancestors committed, and the only way that they can atone for their sins is to inherit one of the Titan powers and become a warrior. Marley says that if they do this, they will become an honorary Marleyan, when in reality they're being used as weapons to fight their wars and stay in power. Not only do they manipulate children into becoming warriors, but they also transform Eldians into pure titans to use in their armies. They use titans to stay in control of other continents because Eldian lives are expendable. They hate Eldians so much because they were oppressed by them, but now they themselves are the oppressors. So looking at it through this perspective, can you really blame Annie, Reiner, and Bertold for attacking the walls? They were only 12 years old when they were sent to the walls by themselves to retrieve the founding Titan power. All Annie wants is to get back to her father, but if they went back to Marley without any progress, they would have been killed too. Even though they committed horrendous acts against humanity and the people who thought of them as friends, they aren't necessarily bad people. They're a product of how they grew up and what was drilled into their heads from the moment they were born. They had been told one thing their entire lives, and that is that Eldians are nothing but island devils who deserve to die. Their horrible acts when they kicked down the wall and killed people were justified in their heads because they weren't killing humans, they were killing demons, mindless monsters. But we see how their perspective changes throughout their time with the Cadet Corps and Survey Corps. They get to know the other soldiers and even become friends with them. Reiner goes through his own split personality because he realized that everything he learned was wrong. These island devils were nothing more than clueless people who knew nothing of the outside world. We can see this shift in perspective very clearly through Gabby Braun, Reiner's cousin, who is training to become a warrior. When Gabby is first introduced, she is a primary example of Marley's way of thinking. She wants to inherit Reiner's armored titan because she believes that it will bring honor to her and her family. Even though she herself is a subject of Ymir, she believes that the people of Paradise are nothing but monsters who deserve to die brutal deaths. After Eren killed her comrades, she did not hesitate to take revenge by killing Sasha during the attack on Marley. Like Eren, she was motivated by rage, sparked by losing a loved one. She was then brought back to paradise as a hostage, and of course she hates every Eldian she meets. Not only did they kill her friends and take her hostage, but they're also disgusting island devils. When her and Falco escape from prison, it's none other than Kaya who takes them in. Kaya, the little girl that Sasha saved in Season 2, rescues her hero's killer without even realizing it. Sasha's family does not hesitate to help Falco and Gabby, and are even understanding when Gabby is openly hateful. Falco accepts their kindness, but Gabby wants nothing to do with them. It doesn't matter how generous they are, Gabby believes it's just a facade because how could a demon actually be nice? She even tries to kill Kaya multiple times, only to be stopped by Falco. It wasn't until Kaya told them about her mother's death that Gabby began to realize that Marley might not have been right after all. Kaya and her mother had nothing to do with the oppression of Marley or even the recent Marley attack. They were simple people who just wanted to live a normal life. At first, Gabby was happy to have killed an island devil, but after learning that the people of paradise are just regular people after all, she isn't so sure anymore. It all comes full circle when Gabby rescues Kaya, because for a moment, it looks like Sasha. This panel not only shows that Gabby has learned the value of Eldian life, but that the people of Marley and the people of paradise aren't actually different at all. The only difference is that they were born in a different place. One side grew up believing in lies, and the other side grew up clueless. Another important perspective to look at would be through the eyes of the Eldian restorationists who were working from within the main continent of Marley. We learn about this through Grisha's book as well. Instead of making a deal with the demon like the Marleyans thought, Eldian restorationists see Ymir as a goddess who made Eldia prosper. They believed that all of the subjects of Ymir were children of a merciful goddess who would never destroy the world. She awakened the great Titan powers and used them to build roads and bridges and develop the continent for all of humanity. But this was guesswork that Grisha made based off of pictures alone. However, he believed it, and so did the other restorationists, so this is what they based their actions off of. Their perspective changes even if the information is false. The reality is that 2,000 years ago, Ymir Fritz was a slave of the Eldian tribe. We don't even know if she was actually of Eldian descent. She was just a little girl who gained the Titan powers by chance after being hunted by the king's dogs. After seeing her Titan abilities, the king of Eldia saw his opportunity to seize her power for himself. She submits to the king's will and uses her power to build up his empire. She did build bridges and roads and develop the country of Eldia, but based on his orders, she also destroys the Marleyan army. She bears his children, kills his enemies, and takes over the Marleyan Empire and the rest of the world. Ymir even sacrificed her own life to save him, but when he realized that she was dead, he had their daughters Maria, Rose, and Sheena eat her corpse so that they would obtain the powers of the Titan, and he told them to have their children eat them too when they die. And this continued on until the Titan powers were split into 9. After Ymir's death, her soul lived on in paths where she continued being a slave to the royal bloodline. For 2,000 years, she built the bodies of the Titans until Eren finally frees her in chapter 122. So, based on all of this information, neither side is fully correct. They each have only part of the information presented. They perceive their pieces of the truth as the full truth and use it to further their own narrative. Both sides have been the oppressors and the oppressed. Each perspective provides a different history, and each person believes that their side is the right one. Ymir was no goddess. She was no devil. She's just a human with her own free will. But like Eren Kruger said,
この世に真実などない。それが現実だ。誰だって神でも悪魔にでもなれる。誰かがそれを真実だと言えばな。
Now let's take a look at the information that we learned from Willie Tybur. He bases what he says off the Warhammer Titans memories that runs in his family. According to him, the 145th Eldian King Friss was ashamed of Eldian's history of genocide, so he conspired with the Tybur family to bring about its downfall. They started the Great Titan War and made up the story of Helos so that King Fritz could leave with his people to paradise. The king lied about saying that he would use the rumbling and had no desire to actually ever fight Marley if they did attack them. He felt that Eldians and Titans never should have existed in the first place. King Fritz made a vow of peace to completely renounce war, and everyone of royal descent who inherits the founding titan will also inherit his will. And this is why no one with royal blood could fight once they became titans. He changed his name to Karl Race and went into hiding, naming a fake bloodline Fritz to take over the throne. Using the founding titan powers, the 145th king wiped the memories of every Eldian within the walls. And 100 years later, our story begins. The people of Paradise have only ever known life inside the walls. They never even knew there were more people beyond the sea. They have always lived in fear of titans, like animals in their filthy cages, like livestock. They never knew anything about Marley or Eldia, or even that they were subjects of Ymir, because their memories were erased by their own king. He made a vow of peace to save his people, and yet that very vow is what held them back from the truth. They believed that their enemies were mindless titans, and then learned that they are the titans. The real enemy is much bigger and much scarier than any single titan could ever be. The entire world hates them for something that they didn't even do. Eren, Armin, and Mikasa dreamed of the sea and always believed that they would be free once they finally reached it. But when Eren saw the ocean for the first time, there was no possible way for him to be happy. After everything they learned from Grisha's book and his memories, how could he possibly look towards the sea for hope anymore? For so long it was a symbol of freedom, but the freedom was shattered the moment they learned of Marley. It seemed like Eren was the only one who truly understood the depth of the world's hatred towards them. He was the only one who realized that they would never be free as long as there were people across the sea who wanted them dead. It was obvious to them that Marley would never change their perspective because they wanted something to be pure evil. They needed something to direct their hate to. They had already decided for themselves that the people of Paradise were devils. So what do we do when someone like Eren, who has always been motivated by rage, looks across the sea and asks if the only way to be free is to kill every enemy out there? Who does Eren turn his rage to once he learns that titans are not the true enemy? Is this the only way to protect the people that he loves, his family? If you back him far enough into a corner, he might just mass murder the entire world. Eren has always been someone who charges forward when he feels something is wrong. He's never been the type of person to give up. He never hesitated to try to rescue Armin from bullies that were clearly stronger than him. Even before his mother got eaten, he wanted to join the Survey Corps, which was dedicated to achieving freedom for humanity. He murdered grown men for a girl that he had never met before. He literally had his arm and leg bit off before getting eaten by a titan, and instead of dying, he unleashed his titan abilities. Eren's reaction has always been to fight for those weaker than him, for those stronger than him, and everyone in between. He's grown into someone who loves his friends more than anything and would do anything for them, even if it means betraying them and becoming the villain of his own story. Even Armin has said that in order to defeat monsters, you have to abandon your own humanity. Knowing nothing about Eren's character, it would be very easy for the viewer to write him off as evil. And we see this perfectly illustrated through Willie Tybur, who has told the people of Marley that Eren Yeager has stolen the founding titan powers and plans on using it to destroy the world. And he's exactly right. That's exactly what Eren seems to be doing. Eren starts the attack on Marley by killing hundreds of civilians only to release the rumbling a few chapters later. The only way to save the people that he loves is to destroy the history of hate in this world, to kill everyone except the people of Paradise. Now, mass murdering the entire world is definitely an act of evil, but we know that Eren is a good person. We know what motivates him: his rage and despair over losing his mother, the death of countless friends and comrades, the love for the people that he has left, the desire and need to protect them. Eren just wants freedom for his people, but Marley wants them all to die, and from his perspective, he's seen enough to believe that they won't change. We know that he feels responsible to carry out the Attack Titan plan because it was forced onto him by his own father. He wouldn't be making this choice if there wasn't a reason for it. Eren really feels like it's him against the entire world. Again, anyone can become a god or a devil. All it takes is for someone to believe it to be true. To the Marleyans, Eren is the devil who stole the founding titan power and is gonna kill everyone in the world. But to the Jaegerists, Eren is the god who will save Eldia and free them all. It all comes down to perspective. And we know that perspective can change as people gain more information, whether the information is true or false. Marley, who was once oppressed by Eldia, are now the oppressors. Eren, who made a vow to kill all Titans, becomes a Titan. Humanity learned how to kill Titans only to discover that they have been killing other humans. Grisha's father had forced his ideals onto him only for Grisha to force his ideals onto both of his children. Reiner and Annie, who broke the walls and mass murdered humans, now work alongside the very people they sought to kill. The 145th king of Eldia made a vow of peace, but it's the reason they're still at war. Marley, who lived in fear of the rumbling, left Eren no other choice but to start it. Eren, who wanted to save humanity, now speaks of destroying it. The world of Attack on Titan is cruel because the people are cruel. It grows increasingly difficult throughout the story to tell who is right or wrong, and that's because there is no right or wrong. There's no pure good or evil in a world that is kill or be killed. Not even the human-eating monsters are evil anymore. Morality is not black and white, it's much more vague than that and comes down to each individual perspective. Every action and reaction is backed by a motive, whether or not that motive is justified. The people of this world act the way that they do based upon their own experiences and what they perceive to be the truth. The story of Attack on Titan is a tale where there is no hero or villain because everyone is both. And this, my friends, is the genius of Hajime Isayama. Alright, now that I got that off my chest,